It's 2021, and that's cause for celebration. And no, not because I think a number on the calendar will make every problem disappear, but rather because it is now officially Pokemon's 25th anniversary, which means I can now shamelessly gush about Pokemon in videos multiple times this year. Today, Pokemon Remaster Collections. Let's talk about it. The successful release of the Mario 3D All-Stars collection is the obvious case study for why releasing a collection of classic games hailing from a franchise as massive and successful as Pokemon makes all of the sense in the world. For the second half of last year, I've made videos about what I think will happen during this big milestone year for the Pokemon IP. In every one of those, I've avoided talking about the rumored and likely debunked, at least in the most prominent form, Pokemon Masters collection. This is because of any and all media companies in existence. I think Pokemon Company is particularly precious about the games they have released. They don't do the whole port thing, despite it being something they could easily do ad infinitum to a Super Mario Bros. Degree on every single platform for every game ever. They rather take the time and effort to remake every generation of their games for new generations of handhelds and now consoles with a new look, new features, and the quality of life improvements that traditionally come part and parcel with each new Pokemon generation introduced. But they have since veered off of this approach and released ports of the earliest Pokemon RPGs on the Nintendo 3DS eShop, and have had great success in doing so, with those ports entering at the top of that platform's sales charts and staying planted there ever since they've made their respective debuts. This is where we come into what I feel are reasonable predictions for classic collections.
With the sheer volume of Pokemon games and spin-offs that have actually come out, it's possible that the Pokemon Company could just about shut their eyes, chuck a few darts, and hit any number of titles, shove them together, and call it a collection. But here I'll focus on three that seem like very reasonable and realistic collections, as small but exciting additions to the anniversary celebration. First is a Pokemon Stadium collection. Pokemon Stadium 1 and 2 were very exciting at the time because it was a great big grandiose way to see these Pokemon we were only used to playing with as small sprites on our Game Boy, and it was Pokemon in multiplayer with no link cable needed. Of course, now it's much less novel, but the games are still fun and held in high regard. I'd love to see a collection of the two of these, even with barely anything changed, but the multiplayer is now available online. Again, if an anniversary is about legacy, then Pokemon certainly started on the Game Boy. So I could see a collection of Game Boy and Game Boy Color Pokemon spin-offs. So that would be Pokemon Pinball, Pokemon Puzzle Champions, Pokemon Picross, and my favorite of the Game Boy spin-offs, Pokemon Trading Card Game. And maybe this is finally the opportunity to bring the Pokemon Trading Card Game Japan-only sequel to the West too. But by far the most likely and most storied is the original mainline games. On the 20th anniversary, we got Gen 1 on the 3DS Virtual Console, and it's certainly possible that these would appear on the Switch by their lonesome in some way. But if not, this could be an opportunity to bring a collection of Gen 1 and Gen 2 to Switch. It may be against the way they like to do stuff, but something like a red and gold bundle and blue and silver bundle. Honestly, the only thing I'd especially want them to change is just to add a modded speed up function specifically to the walking. I love replaying Pokemon Blue, but the tedium of walking from one place to another on my 50th playthrough has certainly come to a head. So a speed up feature in this collection would ironically make me more likely to put more time into it.
I think the best case scenario, meaning something that's in the realm of possibility, but in my opinion is pretty unlikely, would be any and especially all of the following. Pokemon Company doing HD remakes of the GameCube RPGs in the Pokemon franchise. That means anything from them going in and upscaling, adding new lighting, shaders, or any other visual touch-ups, or even completely remaking models, environments, adding quality of life improvements, new content, modes, etc. There's definitely a solid base of Pokemon fans that love and have tons of nostalgia for both Pokemon XD Gale of Darkness and Pokemon Coliseum, and if the porting process for those games would be anything like that of the process for bringing The Legend of Zelda Wind Waker HD or Twilight Princess to the Wii U, which was confirmed to have been about a 6-month-long development cycle, and the original development studio behind these games isn't exactly working on anything pressing with their last game being Pokemon Cafe Mix, so it's not something that would really shock me if it were to come into existence. But I do think there's a chance that they would rather not revisit these games since their original purpose in today's world is all but obsolete. They were novel back in the time they were released for the same reason Pokemon Stadium was novel on the Nintendo 64. It was a way to see Pokemon that you caught and trained on your big screen, and as far as Coliseum and XD specifically are concerned, they had the added bonus of bringing a lot of the same experience the mainline handheld RPGs did while also being that console experience, so it was killing two birds with one stone. But now we have that full RPG experience on console as the mainline game, so having this pseudo Pokemon RPG experience isn't as novel anymore. I think that'll be enough for them to axe anything like this, but for a lot of your sake, I do hope that I'm wrong on this. The second collection that I think is in the realm of possibility, but unlikely to happen for reasons I'll get to, would have to be a collection consisting of all of the Pokemon Ranger games. They would have to rework them, of course, since the originals were designed for dual screen play by way of the Nintendo DS, but it couldn't be the hardest reworking in the world. Making it work on Switch handheld mode is as simple as using touchscreen functionality, and for docked mode, they could use any combination of motion or dual stick controls to stand in for the touch inputs. I will say that I genuinely think Pokemon Rangers getting a collection of ports is more of a possibility than the GameCube RPGs because they've already made their way to console in the past, albeit in a form that isn't exactly ideal on the Wii U Virtual Console. That said, I still think this is unlikely because of all of the Pokemon spin-off franchises that could pretty seamlessly be maintained with new releases. Pokemon Ranger is one of the biggest missed opportunities here, second only to Pokemon Stadium in my opinion. There hasn't been a new Pokemon Ranger game since Generation 4, and there's only 3 games in total in the series. I think that tells us all we need to know about how Pokemon Company feels about this concept in the modern day, unfortunately. And my favorite best case scenario would definitely have to be a 1080p re-release of the 3DS era of Pokemon mainline games, all bundled together, divided by version exclusives, much like Parker mentioned for the Game Boy and Game Boy Color ports. This actually has a lot of things working in its favor if we think about it. First of all, the assets for these games were created in full HD, so visually it wouldn't be too much work to bring the games over from their 240p release state since they were already working from a base that was much higher resolution than that. Secondly, they already seem to have been working on bringing at least Gen 7 over to Switch in the early days of the platform with the much rumored Pokemon Stars project before they ultimately seemingly scrapped that in favor of Pokemon Let's Go and later Gen 8. I think releasing a collection with Gen 6, Gen 7, and the Gen 3 remakes on one Switch cart or digital download would be a great way to celebrate this anniversary without a whole lot of legwork relative to the amount of payoff. This would dramatically increase the amount of Pokemon that could be easily captured and added to Pokemon Home, which would undoubtedly lead to more subscription, therefore more money, and it would just be a great look back at the franchise's history. That said, I could see this being shut down for the sole reason that realistically it took them 20 years to port the few Pokemon games that they have so far. I can't see them porting games that are this current that easily. Sad, but unfortunately, I think at least accurate. Finally, and arguably most importantly for this channel, my absolute dream scenario would be for a collection of the classic Pokemon games, but instead of a cartridge or eShop download with a bunch of old games thrown together with some sprucing up here and there, they'd instead rework the contents from these older games into a single massive release that is a culmination of many games and sub-franchises that would be an unmatched celebration of Pokemon, and honestly something I couldn't imagine being a base $60 as a result of the ambitiousness associated with an idea of this magnitude, at least in its entirety. We plan to make a full video series this year covering our dream Pokemon game in detail to celebrate the Pokemon franchise's 25th anniversary, and this segment of this video is effectively meant to tee that off. So right now I'm going to lay the foundation and we'll go deeper and deeper on every aspect of of this dream game in future videos. So let's get started. I want this game to take place in the entirety of the Pokemon world. Develop this game in the Sword and Shield engine, or hell, go back to sprites for all I care if that's ultimately easier for whatever reason, which, let me tell you, I doubt that would be the case since reusing assets wouldn't be as seamless in the grand scheme of things, but I digress. Give me the Pokemon Mystery Dungeon personality quiz at the start of my journey to help decide what region my trainer comes from. Give me the Fire Emblem Fate style content strategy with full-fledged campaigns taking place in whatever region that I land on through the personality quiz, while allowing for the option to buy DLC to access more full campaigns in every other region there is so far. Allow for players to battle and trade with any other player regardless of the region they start with or own with DLC for. Develop expansions with aforementioned new regions and different career paths, i.e. what would it be like to be a Pokemon coordinator that was born and competes in Kanto, or a Pokemon breeder from the Alola region, or a Team Galactic member in Sinnoh, so on and so forth. This game on a commercial product level could be very similar to The Sims or Destiny or many MMOs where you buy a base game that grants you access to the core content and whatever starting campaign you decide is right for you, and then regular releases for expansion passes. So not so much a collection of games, but an amalgamation of the content that was born from these original games in a modern evergreen form. Like I mentioned, this is pretty much just the foundation of the idea for this ultimate Pokemon game. We plan to go into full detail with videos completely dedicated to all of these aspects and more, so if this piqued your interest at all and you haven't already done so, be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified of when new videos in our Pokemon 25 series are released, but even more importantly than that, the full breadth of content we have to offer this year and beyond. We have a lot planned and we hope you're here to check it out every Tuesday and Thursday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time, new podcasts every Saturday at 10 a.m. Eastern Time on our Directly to You channel and every major podcast service. Okay, that's it for me. See you on Thursday.